Hi, welcome to Mothership Gear. My name is Spencer Alfonso, and I am the host today. I'm the creative director and co-owner of Ildefonso Inc., and also play music with my projects rather than the Roxys or the Margos, the TVC. I am today's host, already said that, but today's guest is Mary Ives, and she's a singer, songwriter, and producer. We have a project together called St. Evaleen, and you have a project with your husband Jake called Moodboard, and you've played with indie artists based in LA like Mini Trees, Jake Tittle, Swan Pools, and Beauty Queen. And you are today's guest on Mothership Gear. A little bit about Ildefonso Inc., though, real quick, is we are a full-service sync house and music agency. And on this show, we invite our friends to hang at the studio and bring over their favorite or most unique pieces of gear. So today's episode, we're going to be talking to Mary about the Korg Minilogue synthesizer. But first, for like a quick icebreaker, what kind of music are you drawn to, Mary?
Just in general?
Yeah, or maybe let's do what we did with Jake, which I think is what I've been most interested in, is what are the through lines in your musical history? Meaning something that maybe you loved as a kid that you still love today, or it's like if there was a collector's edition vinyl that was so beautiful, it's like you have to have this in your collection, or like 5 records you have to have that you always want to be able to go back and listen to?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, on just like a general music sense, maybe not like a specific artist, but I like that question of the through line from my childhood up until now, like what I'm the most interested in. The first thing that came to mind was I took piano lessons when I was a little kid. And I think I went from like age 6 all the way up to age 18, doing classical training and stuff like that. And I had a lot of different teachers, but my favorite teacher, her name is Marta Upward. And she's bae. She's the best. I love her so much because she opened up a realm of possibilities for me that I hadn't heard of before, which was you can write your own music. And I was like, you can? I didn't know that. And she was an awesome teacher because she would let me we would do a lot of duets together. And normally the teacher is the one who's supposed to be handling like the bass part of duets. And then the student would normally take the melody lines because that's the part that stands out the most. But my teacher was cool because she let me do the bass parts because I have always just been really interested in like deep tones. I don't know why I'm not a bass player. I wish I was. I'm terrible at it. I'm actually trying to learn. But I'm always like, I've always been very interested in the bass aspect of keys and piano and just like the warmth of all of that. So I think that plays into some of the artists that I'm interested in and that I have been interested in for my whole life. I've always been a fan of, like R&B that has a lot of, the bass and rhythm section is always like a big portion of those songs. And so I've always been a fan of that. But I guess in general, Joni Mitchell has always been one of my favorites. My mom and I used to share an iPod because I wasn't allowed to listen to a lot of music. And so...
Which, pause real quick. That's so funny because your mom was a radio DJ.
I know.
And was telling me about the Rolling Stones and all this crazy stuff.
I know, yeah.
So the irony is hilarious.
It is funny, yeah. It's mostly because I grew up Christian in a Christian household, and I think there was a little bit of sheltering. My sister and I both give my parents a hard time for that now. But yeah, there was just a lot of music that, it could have been perceived as inappropriate. And so I could only listen to approved oldies and approved current music, which it was a lot of Christian music, which back in the day, Christian music was, on par with like secular music as well. So no shade there. Definitely some cool stuff from my childhood. But yeah, I think my favorites were the oldies. My mom was a big Joni Mitchell fan, big Beatles fan, and Jackson Browne fan. Both my mom and my dad. But yeah, we would listen to that on her iPod, and we had we also had a tote of like a plastic tote of CDs that we would listen to in my dad's, like, it was probably from 2000 or 2001, his Chevy Astrovan.
Nice.
Yeah, we would roll
we had
up.
an Astrovan too.
Yeah, we would roll up bumping, whatever, like anything from Jackson Browne to like Jars of Clay. So yeah, anyway, I've always been a fan of singer-songwriter vibe as well as, like the R&B vibe, which are polar opposites, but both very cool in their own right.
Rad. Okay, so then what do you love about synthesizers? So you grew up playing piano, and when I asked you what instrument you wanted to do, you said the Korg Minilogue. So when did you start to gravitate towards synths?
Well, that's a good question. Probably not until later in my life. I was always kind of shy when it came to like playing piano outside of my house. I started playing in bands when I was probably 14 or 15, and I used to play on, I didn't have like a keyboard of my own. I would borrow my dad's. It was a Korg Triton that I would borrow from him, and that's definitely like, if you listen to 80s ballads at all, and you hear like that really plucky piano sound with a like a symphony behind it, it's probably the Korg Triton. It's like such a specific, very unique sound. So I don't think I really built up the confidence to get into synths until later in life. I had a lot of friends who were super obsessed with modular synths, and it always just felt really intimidating to me. And so that's why I think over the last few years, I've just really been loving my Minilogue, because it's not complicated at all. It's very user-friendly. And even though I would consider myself a proficient piano player, like, synths are totally different than piano and stuff. So I like the fact that it's pretty much cut and dry. And all you really have to do is just, like if you want to make adjustments or anything, you look it up on YouTube, and there you have it, like, because I'm a very visual learner. Like I have a hard time figuring things out on my own. I like to watch people do, like if they're making a synth, I want to know why they're doing certain things. So yeah, I like how simple it is, and there's not a lot of bells and whistles.
Yeah,
it keeps
that's
easy.
Kind of like the sub fatty for me, where
the sub fatty's
the
like
knobs
that too.
just do what you think they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Which I know, I love your Prophet, but I know that's kind of the opposite of the Minilogue, right?
It is, yeah. I have a Prophet 08, and it's very intimidating. I've had it for probably like 4 or 5 years, and I feel like I'm just now starting to understand aspects of how it works. I mean, like, I think with synths you can get by with a basic knowledge of, like, attack does this, release does this, portamento does that, all that kind of stuff. If you can find those knobs, you can generally figure out your way around it. But something about the Prophet, it's just like its own animal. You'll like twist every knob, and you're like, why is nothing changing? So I feel like I'm just now beginning to understand what the Prophet does. But so I like using it, but if I had to make a choice, like, I would just always go for this thing, because it's so much easier, and it's the same level of creativity and quality. Like, I think the presets on the Korg Minilogue are 1,000 times better than the presets on the Prophet, because there are cool sounds, but then you'll just like go through the banks on the Prophet, and you're like, who in their right mind would ever use this? It's the most wild sound. Whereas with this, like, they're just super, like, they're super useful, all the presets, and I love that, because I'm not like the synth nerd going in and like, I've made a couple of my own patches for it, but I prefer to use presets and tweak them when I can.
Totally. So yeah, the Korg Minilogue, how did you hear about it? How did you find it? What drew you to it?
Yeah, so I used to play in a band called Mini Trees with my friend Lexi, and she had bought a Minilogue for her project, because she was doing a lot of the she was playing the synths on it, and she had bought it because she had built the sounds that were on the record. And so whenever we would play live, I would just play that because it's the same sounds on the record. And that's when I fell in love with it. It was the same model as this. There's another model of the Minilogue. I think it's called like the X or the XD or something like that, that it has a little more to it. To be honest, I can't really remember the differences right now, but yeah, I fell in love with it then. And I actually, I think the turning point was I think we had gotten back from a tour or something. And so I'd taken the Minilogue home with me, and I had asked Lexi if I could record it on one of my songs. And she was like, yeah, go for it. And so I did. And I was just like super stoked about the way that it sounded. And they're relatively inexpensive. I think they're maybe like $400 or $500. I mean, that's a lot of money, but like in terms of synths, like that's pretty affordable. So I was like, I think I need to have one of these. And so I went out and bought one pretty soon after that. And I have one of my own.
Yeah, that's incredible. So on their website, they describe it as a polyphonic analog synth, 37 slim key, fully programmable analog polyphonic synthesizer. Minilogue's newly developed analog synth. It has circuits that deliver polyphony and full programmability. It includes polyphonic step and motion sequencer, onboard tape-style delay, multiple sound shaping and filter options, and an oscilloscope display. Its build includes curved sandblasted 2mm aluminum front panel and metal shaft potentiometers, solid traces mounted metal shaft potentiometers, and rubber coated knobs.
Yeah, sure.
So why don't you play us something? Let me make sure that I have you unmuted.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I can hear you.
Yeah,
it's like super warm.
Yeah, super warm. So it's actually interesting. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different presets that you could go with. This is my favorite one. It's literally just like number 12. It
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's what I normally gravitate towards if I'm like trying to work out an idea.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's such a warm and soft sound. I mean, it can get pretty intense. But I have found that because it's so warm, like throughout most of the sounds, I think that's like probably the analog factor, that it is really warm. I don't think that it's very good for like really in your face, like lead lines. I have used it for a lot of different lead lines before, and it sounds really cool with pedals and effects. But the thing that I use it for the most is just like warm pads. And there's also some really cool synth bass patches on it as well that I love to use. Like this one is really cool. Yeah, it's cool. There's tons of stuff on here that's really dope. But yeah.
That's awesome.
I love using it.
Yeah,
for
it
bass.
sounds really like functional. Like you could kind of plug and play. I feel like you use that on My Machine by Boosk, because
I don't know, maybe.
Or was that the Prophet or something? Because I remember seeing Minilogue files come in for something that was like warm, but maybe it was a different Boosk song.
Yeah, it might be a different Boosk song, because that, I mean, I don't remember when that came out, but I remember that I recorded most of my stuff on that song in 2020 from home, because we had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been on a few Boosk tracks for sure. I just can't remember which one specifically.
Yeah, it was one where like you sent semi-new synth stuff in. and towards the end of the record, and I'm trying to remember what that would have been. But yeah, I just remember hearing that and being like, whoa, that's really nice and warm. And it like fleshes out the arrangement, which is like that's what's so cool about it, is it's like, I feel like it's great for chords and like lush stuff.
Yeah. It's the glue, I feel like, that ties everything together. I mean, analog synths in general, I feel like are just there when you're missing something. I feel like a lot of times that's what you're missing, is like something that doesn't necessarily stick out but provides support to the rest of the instrumentation that's going on. And I feel like this Minilogue does really well at that.
Was it maybe the new version of Somewhere New With You?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. I did do synths on that.
Okay,
yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so that's what it was. Great. Yeah, well, yeah, I was so shocked at like how much it can do, because I didn't know what to picture, but then slowly getting more files, like, okay, I think I'm getting an idea for what this does.
Yeah. It is super versatile.
Yeah. So would you recommend it to other people who are looking for a synth to get started with? Are there any downsides to it, or any components that you wish you knew about? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely recommend it to anybody that's looking for like a really it's a really portable and versatile analog synth. The only trouble I think that this kind of comes with the territory with any analog synth, but I have found that it falls out of tune fairly easily. And so the bummer is that like there is a tuning function on the face of it here, but it can get a little tricky when you have multiple oscillators going, and like especially if the effects on it are crazy. You're like a mad scientist and you're like trying to turn knobs at the same time, and it doesn't always work out. So I've found that the best way to, if it falls out of tune, the best way to fix it is you just have to turn it off and turn it back on again, because it auto tunes every time it boots up. So, but it's really not that big of a deal. I feel like I use it the most in studio, and if it's in like I feel like it would only fall out of tune if your temperature is changing a lot, like in the summer. I find that it falls out of tune fairly easily, or if it's super cold. But if it's inside, then it's pretty chill. I don't see any reason why anyone would not want to use this. And I would definitely, if you're interested in it, I would look at the other model. Maybe it has more oscillators. I can't remember what exactly is the difference, the Minilogue X or something. This is also mono.
Okay.
So that would be, if you're looking for something stereo, this is only mono, and I think that the other model is stereo. So that would be something to take into consideration. But I would recommend this any day of the week.
Yeah. Have you heard any Minilogue emulator virtual instruments? Like, does it come with the Arturia packs or anything like that?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's something that I wouldn't know per se, because if I want to use Minilogue sounds, then I'll just use this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That would be something good to look up. I'm sure that there is an emulator somewhere, and software is really good.
What do you find is the difference for you between using an analog synth and a software synth?
I think playability and like from idea to execution, that window of time is so important as a creative. And I think that sometimes software instruments, unless you know what you're going for, if you're just browsing kind of willy-nilly, I think that software can be a little draining on your creative process, because, we've all seen those memes of like the elderly people at the slot machines in Vegas, and they're like, it's like POV trying to find drum sounds, and they're all just pressing it, and it's like different sounds of snares. There's no wait time when you have an analog synth. Same with, like I used to write all of my songs on just sitting down at the piano. And I don't have a real piano anymore, because we live in an apartment. But that that's something that I crave when I'm going to write something, is just the ability to sit down and have a sound that inspires me, so that, you know, like I already have an idea, so I want to get that out, but I want to be continually inspired by whatever piece of hardware that I'm using. And I think that it's just a little bit easier when that window of time between idea to execution is, you know, super minimal. And so, yeah, that's, I think, analog synths in general, like I would love to have, you know, like a Juno or something, but I don't have $5,000.
Totally. No, I think you're spot on with that, because I feel the same way, where I used to rely a lot on the software synths, and then slowly I was like, I should just play with the sub-fatty more. And on the last record we did together, like the sub-fatty was so useful. And
totally.
I feel more confident about the sound design, because, you know, even if it's weird, knowing that it came from a piece of hardware makes it more special somehow to me, because it's like, well, that was the moment that I turned those knobs and there was something happening in the room that made me go, oh, I like that. Whereas when I'm browsing through patches, as you described, it kind of feels a little like impersonal.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. And it feels also like there's a little more peace of mind that, you know, yeah, maybe 5 other people that are in my genre are using a Minilogue and they're using the same presets as me. So there is that possibility. But I feel like with a synth that's tangible in your hand, it feels, there's more peace of mind knowing like this is the sound that I wanted right then, as opposed to, you know, you're like walking around Target or something and you're like, I know that Alchemy sound.
Totally.
You know, I feel like it's a little easier to feel like, oh, no one has my sound. Even if they do, you know.
It still feels more like it's your sound that day. Totally. And yeah, you have the magic of it going through the preamp and how hot it's going in, or whether you're running
it's
pedals.
Always different.
What pedals do you like to pair with it when you're in the studio?
Well, I mostly steal guitar pedals from my husband, Jake. And he's always the pedal expert, because I have to ask him like every single time, you know, like, where's this one supposed to go? And where's this one supposed to go? So I like using something with a little modulation. So we have a chorus pedal that I have no idea what it's called, but it's yellow. And I think my husband, Jake, bought it back when the 1975, the I Like It When You Sleep album, the pink one, when that came out, because I think the guitar player used that a lot and we were like obsessed with that sound. So I like to use that. I also have a Nova delay that is the tap function is broken and the knobs are crazy. So you like barely touch it and then the tempo goes up to like 500. And you're like, whoa. So you have to be it's a little janky, but I kind of like that. And then I used to use a lot the Flint from, who makes that? Is that TC Electronics?
No.
Or Strymon.
Yeah,
Strymon makes that. I think TC Electronics is the Nova delay.
Okay.
Yeah, so Strymon makes the Flint, and that's tremolo and it's reverb. And so I would use it mostly for the reverb, and it's just easy, you know, simple. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. Now I have a Strymon Big Sky that I like to use a lot, and I use the presets on that as well. And it's awesome. There's so many sounds in that you could go for. So yeah.
Rad. Cool. Well, thank you for bringing it over and letting us get to know the Minilogue.
Yeah.
If you guys like this episode, like it, comment, tell us what you think of the Minilogue or your favorite analog synth. And say hi to us at ildefonso.co, or check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Ildefonso Inc. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Goodbye.
Later.